My sister showed up at my door with a 3-month-old baby living in her car, begging me to watch him for just a few weeks while she got clean. 12 years later, she returned and told him I had kidnapped him from her and stolen his childhood. What happened next destroyed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty and unconditional love. I am Christopher, and I was 24 years old when my world changed forever. I had just graduated from college and was working at a digital marketing company in Denver, making $15 an hour. I was trying to figure out adult life when my sister Monica showed up at my door at 2 in the morning, holding a crying baby. She looked terrible with bloodshot eyes, dirty clothes, and she smelled like she had not showered in days. The baby was my nephew, Lucas, who was only 3 months old, and he was living in Monica's car, while she bounced between different friends' couches. Monica was high on something and barely making sense, but she kept begging me to watch Lucas for just a few weeks, while she got herself together. She promised she was going to check into rehab and get clean, and then come back for him. I was a young guy who knew nothing about babies, but what was I supposed to do? Let my nephew live in a car with a drug addict? I took Lucas in, and those few weeks turned into forever. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing with a baby. I remember calling my mom at 3 in the morning crying because Lucas would not stop screaming, and I had tried everything. I learned to change diapers during lunch breaks at work using YouTube videos in the office bathroom. I survived on coffee and whatever baby food Lucas did not finish. I missed so many nights out with friends and potential dates because who wants to date a 24-year-old guy raising a baby that is not even his own? But none of that mattered when Lucas smiled at me or reached for me when he was scared. Monica would show up every year or two making big promises about getting her life together, and then disappearing again to chase her next high. When Lucas turned 5, I knew I had to make our situation official, so I filed for legal guardianship. Monica signed the papers while she was in rehab, thanking me for saving her baby, and I thought that was the end of our legal issues. Lucas grew up to be an amazing kid, making honor roll every semester and playing varsity soccer as a sophomore. He literally helped elderly people with their groceries without anyone asking him to. He called me Dad even though I always reminded him I was Uncle Chris because I wanted him to know the truth about his family. Then 2 months ago, my entire world completely imploded when Monica showed up at Lucas's school. She had apparently been clean for 2 years and married to some wealthy businessman with a house that looked like something from a celebrity magazine. She told Lucas that I had stolen him from her, and that she had been begging for him back for years, but I had threatened her and used her addiction against her. She had created fake letters that she supposedly had written to me over the years, and made herself out to be this victim who had finally found the strength to fight for her baby. Lucas came home and looked at me like I was a complete stranger, some kind of criminal who had been lying to him his entire life. He asked me directly if I had kidnapped him from his mother, and I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces. I tried to explain that his mom had done things like this before, but he would not listen. He said his real mom had showed him proof, and that I was a liar who had stolen him because I wanted a kid. Do you know what it feels like to have the person you love most in the world look at you with complete disgust? The next 6 weeks before court were absolute torture. Lucas barely spoke to me except to ask when he could see his real family. Monica kept texting him pictures of this bedroom she had decorated and making promises about trips to Disney World and Europe. I had to listen to him laughing on the phone with her at night, knowing she would use him and then forget about him all over again. I wanted to scream that I was the one who had stayed up with him when he had nightmares and taught him to tie his shoes, and cheered myself hoarse at every soccer game. The custody hearing was absolutely brutal. Lucas had to sit there and hear everything about how Monica had left him in that car for hours while she went to score drugs, and how he had been hospitalized for dehydration when he was 6 months old because she forgot to feed him. The judge heard about how she had sold his crib to buy drugs and had him sleeping on the floor. 10 years of receipts and police reports and rehab stints that I had paid for were presented as evidence. My lawyer even brought in the social worker who had documented how Lucas thrived under my care. But I could see my boy shrinking in his chair with every horrible detail about his mother. Monica's new husband talked about their money and stability, and her lawyer tried to paint me as some creep who had stolen a baby for selfish reasons. The judge saw through all of their lies and threw out their case, but winning in court did not fix what was broken between us. Lucas stayed with me because he had to legally, but he started calling me Chris instead of Dad. He would do his homework and go to soccer practice, but then lock himself in his room for hours. I would see him staring at Monica's social media, looking at that house with a swimming pool, and I knew he was wondering what his life could have been like. Then Lucas decided he wanted to start spending time with his mother despite the court order. Instead of fighting it, I made a decision that would change everything. I decided he should stay with her after all. He needed to see for himself what kind of person my sister really was. The weekend visits started slowly. Every Friday afternoon, Lucas would pack his backpack and wait by the window for Monica's expensive Mercedes to pull up. She would honk twice and he would run out like our house was on fire. I would watch him climb into that car while my sister waved at me with this smug smile that made my stomach turn. He would come back Sunday nights, different, at first quieter, but then buzzing with stories about jet skis and private movie theaters and personal chefs. The expensive sneakers started showing up first, then the designer backpack, then the gold chain he tried to hide under his shirt. I found receipts in his pockets for restaurants where appetizers cost more than our weekly grocery budget. I tried to compete by making his favorite lasagna and suggesting we catch new movies. I bought tickets to see his favorite team play, but he would go through the motions while checking his phone every 5 minutes. Monica was always texting him pictures of vacation destinations, asking which one he wanted to visit for spring break. Meanwhile, I was calculating whether I could afford to take him camping for a weekend. The soccer season started, and I went to every game like always, but now Monica and her husband sat in the front row, wearing custom jerseys with Lucas's name. They would cheer louder than me and bring professional photographers to document everything. Other parents started treating me differently, like I was the weird uncle hanging around while the real family had returned. Lucas stopped asking me to review game footage because his mom's husband had hired a former professional player to work with him privately. Our Wednesday movie nights disappeared because Monica had enrolled him in expensive tutoring programs. I kept telling myself that the court had ruled in my favor for good reasons, but legal victories do not mean much when your kid's heart is somewhere else. I would catch him staring at pictures of her house, zooming in on the swimming pool and game room. The school counselor called because Lucas had written an essay about feeling torn between two lives. Monica started pushing boundaries by showing up at his soccer practices, even though the court order said supervised visits only. The breaking point came during a tournament weekend when Lucas's team made it to the championship. Monica convinced him to stay at her house since it was closer to the venue. They won the championship, and I watched from the stands as Lucas ran straight to Monica and her husband for the celebration. I had planned his favorite victory dinner, but he said the team was going to Monica's house for a party instead. I drove home alone with his clean uniform, wondering if I would ever wash it again. The next morning, Lucas came home wearing a Rolex watch. He said it was an early birthday present from his mom for making the winning shot. I stared at that watch, worth more than my car, ticking on my kid's wrist like a countdown to when he would leave for good. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday, and it was raining hard when someone started pounding on my door at 2 in the morning. I opened it to find Monica standing there soaking wet with her makeup running and her pupils completely dilated. She was sobbing, and obviously high, swaying on my porch. She pushed past me, stumbling into my living room, saying her husband had left her and kicked her out. He had changed the locks and canceled her credit cards. She kept saying she could not handle being a full-time mother and that Lucas was too much work. The words tumbled out between sobs about how she thought it would be easy with all that money, but kids have needs and schedules. She grabbed my hands, begging me to take him back. She would sign whatever papers I wanted and tell the judge she had lied about everything. She just wanted her old life back with parties and trips and freedom. That is when I heard the stairs creaking. Lucas was standing there in his pajamas, with his eyes wide, taking in the entire scene. Monica saw him and tried to stand but stumbled and knocked over the lamp Lucas had made me in 3rd grade. The words that came next destroyed everything. She screamed that this was not supposed to happen and that she had only wanted Lucas back to hurt me and prove she could take him. She wanted to show her husband's family she was a good mother so she could post pictures on social media that made her look reformed. She never actually wanted to raise a teenager or deal with daily parenting responsibilities. She wanted the title without the work, the photos without the responsibility. Lucas just stood there perfectly still as Monica continued her confession about how she had practiced her story for months. Her husband's lawyer had coached her on what to say, and the letters were written by someone she paid online. She'd been using drugs again for weeks and could not handle the pressure of pretending to be a mom. Monica finally noticed the horror on Lucas's face and tried to backtrack, reaching for him, saying she did not mean it. But he backed away like her touch would burn him, then turned and ran upstairs. The sound of his door slamming shook the whole house. I told Monica to leave and called her a ride to a motel. After she left, I stood outside Lucas's door for an hour listening to him cry. The next morning, his room was empty because he had left for school early. I found the Rolex on his dresser along with the gold chain and designer clothes piled in the corner. Days passed in complete silence. Lucas would go to school and come home and lock his door. He would not eat the dinners I made or respond to my texts. I gave him space but kept his routines intact, washing his uniforms and leaving food outside his door. About a week later, I found him sitting in our backyard at 3 in the morning, just staring at nothing. I sat beside him, close enough to show I was there, but far enough to give him space. We sat in silence for an hour before he finally spoke, asking if everyone in our family was broken. I told him the truth, that yes, our family had problems and that addiction ran deep, but that he got to choose who he became. Being hurt did not mean he had to hurt others. He asked why I had not told him the truth about Monica from the beginning. I explained that I wanted him to have hope that people could change. Maybe that was wrong, but I wanted to preserve his innocence as long as possible. He said he felt stupid for believing her and for wanting the life she offered. I pulled him close and told him wanting your mother's love was natural, and that Monica's failures said nothing about his work. We stayed outside until sunrise talking about everything. He asked if I regretted raising him, and I told him the only thing I regretted was not being able to spare him this pain. Loving him was the best decision I had ever made, even when it hurt this much. The morning light revealed how exhausted we both looked, but something had shifted between us. Lucas did not pull away when I suggested we go inside for breakfast. We made pancakes together, moving around the kitchen in comfortable silence, and for a moment it felt like before. School became his escape as he threw himself into his studies with intensity that worried teachers. I found him reorganizing his room one night, taking down the expensive things Monica had given him and keeping only what he had before she came back. The soccer team noticed the change immediately. Lucas played with different energy, now aggressive and relentless, like he was trying to sweat out his confusion on the field. Then Monica started calling my phone 20 or 30 times a day, leaving voicemails that swung between apologies and threats. I blocked her number, but she found other phones and created new email accounts. Each message was fresh manipulation, promising she had changed or threatening to tell Lucas I was keeping them apart. I did not tell Lucas about the calls, but he could sense something was happening. One evening, he simply said he did not want to know what she was saying, and that he needed time before he could think about her again. I respected that boundary, even as her harassment escalated. The school's winter formal approached, and Lucas surprised me by asking if we could go shopping for a suit together. Not at designer stores, but at the department store where we had always shopped. We debated between navy and charcoal, discussing it like the old days when every decision was collaboration. His date was Emma from his chemistry class, someone he had known for years, but only recently noticed. After they left for the dance, I sat in our living room feeling something I had not experienced in months, which was genuine hope. Maybe we could rebuild, and maybe the foundation we had created over 10 years was strong enough to survive this storm. But then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a picture of Monica standing outside Lucas's school with the message, "He is still my son." I drove to the school immediately, but could not find her anywhere. The damage was done because she had shown me she could get close to him whenever she wanted. We developed new safety routines built on caution. I would walk him into school and he would text me when he arrived at practice. It felt like we were partners in protection rather than parent and child, united against a threat we could not predict. The holidays approached with weight they had never carried. Thanksgiving had always been our favorite, just the two of us. But now every tradition felt fragile. We were setting the table when the doorbell rang. A delivery driver brought a massive flower arrangement from Monica with a card that read "Happy Thanksgiving to my son." Lucas read the card once, then walked to the garbage and threw the entire arrangement away. The crash of glass was violent and final. We ate dinner pretending the flowers had never arrived, but they sat between us anyway, invisible and impossible to ignore. The soccer playoffs continued with Lucas playing his best games ever. College scouts started appearing regularly with scholarship offers. The championship game drew a packed crowd and Lucas played like someone possessed. With 30 seconds left, they were down by 2 when Lucas executed a perfect steal and scored as time expired. The gym exploded with celebration, and in all the chaos he found me in the stands. When I reached him, he hugged me tight and said, "We did it, Dad," and I knew he meant more than just the game. We went to our usual victory dinner and he actually ate and talked about the game like we used to. But reality waited at home in another package from Monica. This time it was baby photos of Lucas I had never seen. Pictures from his first months that I had missed because she had not brought him to me yet. The manipulation was surgical in its precision. Lucas looked through them once, then handed them to me and went to his room. I kept the photos in a drawer, uncertain what to do with them. They were his history, as complicated as it was. I focused instead on the photos we had taken together, the decade of memories we had built. Months passed and slowly we found our rhythm again. Lucas started therapy and we did some sessions together working through the trust that had been damaged. He wrote letters to Monica that he never sent, burning them in the backyard as a way of letting go. The college acceptance letters started arriving, and Lucas chose a school 2 hours away. Close enough to come home, but far enough to be his own person. He said he was not running from our history anymore, just building his future on the foundation we had created together. As graduation approached, Monica surfaced one last time through a lawyer requesting supervised visitation. She had completed another rehab program and wanted to make amends. Lucas read the letter once and said he would think about it. After a week, he decided to meet her for 1 hour at the therapist's office. He came out composed but tired. He told me Monica had apologized and taken responsibility. But when she talked about rebuilding their relationship, he saw the truth. She was still thinking about herself, what she needed from him, rather than what he might need from her. He told her he was glad she was clean and hoped she stayed that way, but he was not interested in a relationship. They parted with a handshake, formal and final. Graduation day was beautiful, and when Lucas took the podium as valedictorian, I held my breath. But he spoke with confidence about resilience and chosen families. He thanked his teachers, his coaches, his friends, and then he thanked his dad, who taught him that showing up was the only thing that mattered. The summer passed with a road trip we took up the coast. 2 weeks of just being us without the weight of our history. Move-in day arrived, and I helped him unpack in his dorm room. When everything was arranged, we stood by my car with other families saying elaborate goodbyes. Lucas hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for everything," then stepped back with shining eyes. I told him I was proud of him, and that I loved him, and that he knew where to find me. Then I got in my car and drove away before either of us could make it harder. That night I found a note he had left on my pillow, thanking me for choosing him when it would have been easier not to. He promised to make me proud, not knowing he already had every single day. He signed it, "Your son always," and I kept that paper in my wallet until it fell apart. Life developed new rhythms without him, but he called regularly and came home for holidays, filling the house with stories about college life. What would you have done if your family tried to manipulate the child you raised? Share your thoughts about chosen family versus blood relations in the comments below. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us unconditionally are the ones who hurt us most. Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and letting them learn painful truths on their own? Leave a like if you believe real family is built on commitment, not genetics. Sometimes the greatest act of love is raising someone to be strong enough to leave.